Oh no. She's chasing me. She's chasing me. I think I'm safe. The following podcast contains spoilers for spring. You have been warned. No! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a new and exciting year of Spooktober. Yes, this is your host, Glenjamin Bunn, along with your host, Miguel Magusto, if he wasn't eaten alive just now.
I wasn't. I stubbed a toe. That's what that scream was.
Oh, just
I like
toe.
how we can't agree on a name. Like, I call it a Spooktacular, you call it Spooktober. It's
I have my own thing with Twitch where I call it Spooktober, and it's just stuck with me.
It could be both Spooktacular and Spooktober. It's a
just a
Spooktacular
spooky
Spooktober. It is, yes. So, of course, we have started our 6 weeks of horror movies, and we're going to discuss them. But until then, Glenjamin Button, have you watched any movies this week that you would like to mention?
I watched quite a few movies, and I know what you're thinking, Glenn, is this more than usual? No, it's not. Stop trying to kid yourself. Don't get ahead. But we had originally watched at the beginning of the week here for us, Barbarian on Thursday. We did a little review. That thing is up on the goddamn YouTube. Would recommend watching it, but would also recommend just getting your eyes on that movie because I feel like it's not going to have enough word of mouth, and that pisses me off. It's starting to hurt me a little bit. Yeah. But after that, I had watched a little movie called The Return of the Living Dead, which had been a childhood movie. It's actually my first zombie movie, I believe, at least from memory, that I've ever watched.
Oh, nice.
And it is what got me hooked. So I was like, let me rewatch that shit.
Mine was either Shaun of the Dead or 28 Days Later. I can't remember which one.
I mean, both solid ones, for sure. And then after that, I started watching, because, I like to be on the computer and playing video games. I started a little show in the background. No expectations. I heard it was good, but I'm not there, so I just have it on in the background. The Harley Quinn show that's been out for just a little bit now. It's like the adult animated Harley Quinn show. It's actually, I'm 3 episodes down. It's actually really funny. So far, expectations are just kicking ass. And so, I'm excited to see that continue. I think there's 3 seasons, so I'm curious how that's going to go. And then, of course, I watched Spring, which is your movie, and that is all for me. Heavy week for me this week.
Yes. I saw 5, and a light week for me, because I went to Hershey Park on Saturday, and first time I was ever at an amusement park in the past 10 years, maybe 9 years.
10 years. Wow.
It's been a long time since I've been to an amusement park, mainly because I am both big and tall. It's hard for me to fit on roller coasters.
Understandable.
And that remained the case. Although, as you know, I am on my way to losing weight. I fit on way more rides than I thought I would, so that was promising.
That's awesome.
And just got to keep it going so I can fit on the ones I didn't fit on this time. Speaking of Hershey Park, just going a little off tangent. Have you ever been on the roller coaster Sky Rush there?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. It's been a very long time.
Yeah.
I never remember roller coaster names.
It's the big yellow one.
Probably.
At Hershey Park. Anyway, so it's widely considered the best roller coaster in Pennsylvania by roller coaster enthusiasts. This was the second time I went on it, and both times have been absolutely fucking terrifying. Because you feel like you're getting thrown out of your seat. Anyway, I thought that was spooktacular. So, yeah, it was horrifying, but I loved it. Like, it's like horrifying in a fun way. Anyway, I watched 5 movies. The first one I watched was called The Last Picture Show. It is directed by the late great Pete Bogdanovich. It's essentially just following this small town in Texas as these high schooler seniors try to like hook up and all that. Jeff Bridges is in it. He's probably the biggest name there that people would recognize, but I thought it was okay. It's kind of a non-movie. Like it's a movie, but like not much happens, so it's not amazing or anything, but it's a solid, okay movie. Then I have been itching to do this, so I rewatched The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. One of my top 10 movies of all time.
It is.
Absolutely love that movie. And rewatching that just solidified it for me. It's got a great score, great cinematography, great acting all around.
All the above.
All of the above. Fantastic film. Then I watched Barbarian, which we have a review for that on YouTube. I feel the same way as you. More people need to see it. More people need to be talking about it.
Amen.
We need more butts and seats for this movie because it is real good.
It deserves the money.
It does deserve the money, so I hope people support it. Then I watched the new live-action remake of Pinocchio with Tom Hanks. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Jiminy Cricket in it, but he does a really annoying voice the entire time, and I hated it. And I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I was like, this doesn't even sound like you. Why did they get you to do this if you're not even going to sound like you? That's a waste of your name.
I'm assuming Tom Hanks was Geppetto.
Yeah, Tom Hanks was the best part of it, as he is usually in all the movies he's in. But the movie overall sucks, and that's mainly because Tom Hanks isn't in it nearly as much as he should be. But yeah, it's not a good movie. That kind of the same with all the live action remakes. They're not good. They're really just so Disney can keep their copyrights to them.
Yeah,
they're not putting any heart into them at all.
You know they're doing a prequel for Lion King now, right? With
so
Mufasa.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah.
The remake for The Lion King was the worst remake that there was. It was horrible.
Did you watch Mulan? I didn't yet, but Mulan, I heard that was pretty bad.
Mulan is bad, but it's not as bad as The Lion King, because The Lion King, take The Lion King, the cartoon from the 90s, remove all the emotion from it.
Oh, of course.
That is the Lion King remake. It's it's so bad. And Donald Glover does his best as adult Simba. Beyonce should not. She should not have been cast as Nala. Like I'm not a fan of her music, but people need to stop casting music artists as actors. Because
she did a little bit of acting before
they're rarely,
this, though.
I mean, she's never been great though.
No,
and like it's just not good. And her song replaced "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" or something like that. It was just not good. It was horrible. Anyway, I didn't even watch that this week. Why am I talking about it?
I also think when she was doing acting, it was back when To the Left, that song came out. So 2009 or 2010.
Yeah, I mean, she's never been good, but like, just stop. Harry Styles shouldn't be casting stuff either. He's got 2 movies coming out, Don't Worry, Darling, and The Policeman, and he's getting horrible reviews in both.
Yeah,
so stop.
He was fine in Dunkirk, but all he really had to do was he had to just be scared most of the time.
Yeah, he didn't talk.
Yep.
If he did, none of the lines were memorable. Then I rewatched Spring, which we're going to get into in just a second. But I have a little bit of news. Nothing too crazy. But our boy, our God among men, Brendan Fraser, has won an award at the Toronto International Film Festival for his performance in The Whale. Just making me more excited for that movie. Creating Oscar buzz around him. I don't want to get my hopes up too soon, but I really hope this man gets an Oscar.
I do too.
I hope so much.
My body's leaving me.
Yes.
Jesus. Anyway, did Michelle Yeoh win something too? Best actress.
She did as well. I don't know for what movie. It might have just been like a
Everything Everywhere. Oh no, I guess
that's kind of late. I mean, it might have been, but it's kind of late if it was for that.
Yeah, I assumed it would have been that one. But,
it might have been. I have no idea, but I'm just
either
glad
that, or I think she was in Shang-Chi last year.
Yeah, it's also possible that it was like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh yeah, it could be.
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I don't want to take the time to look it up right now. But she did win something. I don't know what it was. But I would love for her to win an Oscar as well.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. So yeah, that is some just happy news.
He deserves all the love in the world.
He does. I just want to be his friend. Be my friend, Brendan Fraser.
Did you see the interview he was recently in where this guy was interviewing him, and I don't know who the other person was off the top of my head, but the interviewer was like, so do you have anything else like coming up, or like what's like your plans for the future? And he just silently like, to himself, he goes, oh, Batgirl. Oh wait, just a smart ass, because Batgirl got canceled and he was the villain in that. He's like, oh wait. It's just a smart ass remark. It was hilarious. He's like, did I do that? Oh my god, I didn't mean to say that out loud. It was so innocent and funny.
Yeah, I love him. He's great. I can't wait to see The Whale. Looking forward to that. But without any further ado, let's get into the first movie of our spooktacular Spooktober, Spring.
I love you. I love you too, Mark.
I'm sorry about your mom.
Thanks, Mike.
Watch where the fuck you going, bitch!
Get out of town, Evan.
Can I get a flight somewhere? Anywhere. Actually, hold on a second. Should I go to Italy?
What?
I've been seeing this girl. She's really pretty, but she gives me some doubts. You're the most attractive person I've ever seen. But that doesn't outweigh that you might be a mental patient, and I gotta make sure you're the kind of crazy I can deal with.
No.
I'm a bunch of confusing biochemistry and some crazy hormones.
Let's see if the young can keep up, mate.
I don't think you're ready for where this is going.
Explain it to me. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna stay here.
A young man in a personal tailspin flees from the U.S. to Italy, where he sparks up a romance with a woman harboring a dark, primordial secret. Directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, written by Justin Benson, starring Lou Taylor Pucci, Nadia Hilker, Francesco Carnellotti, however you pronounce that, Nick Nevern, and a few other people that are in this as well. I saw this for the first time, I want to say in 2020, when I was watching a bunch of movies because there was nothing else to do. And I was really impressed with it. We had just watched The Endless shortly before that, or maybe like a year before that. So I kind of mainly watched it because of their name, and the poster's really cool. Knew
it
nothing
is really
else
cool.
about it. Knew zero about it. Rewatching it, and this just goes to tell you where my brain is at. I knew it was like romantic, but I didn't realize it was as like much of a romance as this movie actually is.
Yeah, I thought at some point it was going to kick into a little bit more of the horror. But I was like, man, this is much more romantic than Mike usually likes. What's?
I mean, I like the discussion of immortality versus mortality and everything that goes on. So I think that's what I focus on more. And of course, I do think the horror elements in this are pretty strong as well.
100%, especially the first shot where she's like going through like this alleyway and there's like a cat.
Oh yeah,
God, that is grotesque looking. What the hell's going on there?
Absolutely. But it's the thing I actually do like about that is that it is a romance film, just takes place in a horror world, which is kind of unique in itself. And I just, while rewatching, I was like, this is way more romantic than I remember, because my brain forgets romance stuff and just remembers the horror elements. And I still really liked it. I want to know what you thought. What were your thoughts while watching this?
Yeah, the first kind of 10 minutes didn't set me up for what I thought was going to be a good movie in the slightest. Because it was like a really heavy, this guy... has two dying parents. One of them's already dead, actually, and his mother's on her deathbed, and this guy's like going through some shit, and then she finally passes the hell away. She's like, I'm out of here, and then dies, and then and then he's grieving.
That's such a nonchalant way of saying that.
Well, she passes away, and then this guy's going through a crisis. He's both his parents are dead. He doesn't really have that many friends, so he's at a bar with what friends he does have, and they're not great friends. He's not surrounded by good people in the slightest.
No,
but the one good thing they're all telling him is to get the fuck out of like where he lives. Just go away. Just get out of town, because he's not doing anything where he is, and he just needs to go and just reassociate his mind. That was the one good thing like any of the people there told him to do, because they were all pieces of shit. I didn't like anybody, and it didn't set me up for what I thought was going to be a good movie. But once he got there, and once it set up this world in Italy, it started to grow on me more and more, especially as soon as he met the Nadia Hilker character.
Yeah, Louise.
Because once then, that's when the movie really starts, and when it starts actually getting good. Because then you're just enjoying the conversations that they're having, enjoying what's going on. And this guy, although he's got some anger issues, he's vibing. He's getting a little romance on, a little bang bang, shall I say?
Yep.
But yeah, the first 10 minutes did not do it justice, and I'm glad I didn't disassociate myself with it.
Yeah.
Because once it got to the half-hour mark or so, that's when it started picking up, and it's got its claws hooked on me. I started having fun, especially the shot that I was talking about when I noticed some shit was going down, where she's super skinny. She's not wearing anything. She's buck-ass naked walking through this dark alleyway. It's after the first night
together, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she's just like grotesque looking, walking like kind of limping through this alleyway, and then it's just this cat. He's like meow, and then just a quick jump to the cat getting fucked up. I'm like, what the hell was that? Because that was my favorite shot of the whole thing, because I thought it for sure was going to set up like, oh, this bitch about to go crazy later. But it doubled down on the romance, which I kind of liked a lot, because the conversations that they were having and the chemistry they had, it was pretty solid. Like it kept me attached the whole time, and it never really focused too hard on the monster part of her. Which, by the way, I watched this 2 nights in a row. I watched half of it the first night and the rest today, because I had something happening today, which is why I was late to the podcast. I'm sorry, Mike. But yeah, I watched it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is crazy. And every time I watched it, I was eating. So there was a part, by the way, where she's transforming into this thing, and I'm eating. I'm like, man, I don't want to eat what I'm eating right now, because this is disgusting as shit. And there was a lot of peeling going on and skin, and I'm just like, man, I wish I wasn't eating this cheese tortellini right now.
Yeah, it does really well with the body horror aspect of this. In fact, it's like entirely body horror, because like the people that she attacks, you kind of want to go away. Yeah, and like she gets cats and everything, and so it really is just body horror that does.
It's never like that she's just this monster killing innocent people or anything like that. She's trying. So this monster, let's talk about the monster for a second here. So like she's like this monster who needs to feed on flesh or meat, or assuming blood. Blood is kind of a part of it, but she needs to feast on flesh or meat to kind of go back and recluse back to her human form.
Yeah, before, like raw meat too. Yeah, like a lot of it.
Yeah, before
so it's not just like she can order a steak and be fine.
Yeah, it's like she's trying to keep this thing inside of her, and if she's not eating meat, then it's kind of comes scratching back out. So every time she's not eating and she's just hanging out with this guy, that's she like kind of dips away, because like her flesh starts to kind of like rot a little bit, like it's kind of coming back out and trying to get out of her. And so like she'll just disappear, and then she'll just come across a cat, or like her pet rabbits, or just some crazy tourist American who's an absolute dickhead.
Yeah, horrible person, probably a rapist, but within the movie, an attempted rapist. So.
But because she likes the main character, there's never like a scene where she's like, oh man, well, you're sitting there, she's like, when's the moment she's going to fucking snap on our guy, our man? And she never does. And it's really cool because you're like, oh shit, when's the moment? When's the moment going to fuck him up? And it never really happens until the end, maybe. Who knows?
Ooh.
But the part that really fucked me up is when she is transforming and he walks in on her, like it happening, and like she's like this like snake looking monster.
She's like a squid snake scorpion hybrid.
It's like what I would imagine Medusa would look like without like the snake head, like the hair, I should say. And man, that fucked with me because that skin was crawling and shit. Like when she got injected with the stuff, and like the skin started falling off, and I'm like, man, I don't want to eat this tortellini anymore, man. That messed with me pretty hard. But like the monster itself was like a cool design and grotesque as hell. But like you never actually saw it often. And it never really gave it to you that often, which was fine because it focused more on the romance between these two characters and stuff like that. I talked a lot. That was a lot of talking. You did.
That was the most talking I think you've ever done on this podcast. Consecutive talking, at least. I mean, it's a wild movie, and it's for me the thing that I like most about it is that it's kind of like making its own genre. Where yes, it has horror, but it's not really a horror. Yes, it's romantic, but it's not really a romance either. It's somewhere like very in between. And the thing that this does the best is kind of create the mythos around it, where like it hints throughout until confirming later on that she has been alive for millennia. She knows all these things about these artifacts, even though she's just a medical practitioner. She has this I forget what the eye condition with two different color eyes.
Hetero something. I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not a scientist.
Me neither. Heterochromia iridium or iridum, and then they show paintings of women that kind of resemble her and also have the two different eye colors, and it slowly builds this kind of mythology, and in a way kind of creates this story of a cryptid, where there's these stories of monsters and everything, and she has like all this backstory and everything. It just does a really good job of creating the backstory. And
especially when he asks like the deeper questions of like, so like, is there a God, or like what do you believe in, like what was going on? Because she's been alive for so long, she's got to know some sort of answers. And she's like, well, I mean, there's stuff that I think, but I don't know. Like she's like, I'm a person of science, but I don't necessarily know whether or not there is God or anything. I'm like, I'm just alive. I've just been alive for so long. It doesn't mean I know the answers and shit. And there's some points where she talks about like Apollo and stuff, like the Greek god.
Yeah. One thing she says is that many gods had come and gone by the time the Christian God came around. Which it's 100% true. The Christian God is only. I mean, if you follow Judaism, it's longer because they're technically speaking, the Christian God and the Jewish God are the same. It's just a matter of if Jesus was a thing. But it is a relatively new God compared to like other gods, like Scandinavian gods and Nordic gods rather, and Greek gods, Roman gods, all that stuff. And the whole, she's kind of like reluctantly staying with him. Like she wants to push him away, but he just wants to be there for her as she enters her new cycle. Because the way, with the way it works, like if she gets impregnated, she kind of becomes the baby she's carrying in a way, or becomes like half of the, gets half the DNA to rejuvenate her. and I'm explaining it horribly.
But it's the way that every 20 years she has to become impregnated, and then basically the baby that she's having becomes her, and she reverts back to her like more 20-year-old age, then. So every 20 years she has to do that. So every guy comes along.
Yeah.
And with that guy, she basically gets half of his like traits, I guess, like personality. I don't know about personality or not. I know she remembers, she has the memories, but I don't know if she gets the personality or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that. But if she doesn't, there's a chance that she could just never stay young again and just grow old. And that's how that works. That's how at least I interpreted it as.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's a more well thought out movie than you would expect from the premise. It's more about philosophy and everything than actual horror, and the idea of if there is someone out there that is worth dying for, not like right away, but like she's immortal. Is she willing to give up immortality for this man she just met?
Yeah, and 5 days ago or 7 days ago.
And it focuses on that, and his whole argument, which I love because I fully believe this, is that life isn't really worth living if you're not going to die. And that's something I fully believe 100%, because it's the law of diminishing returns, where the more you do something, the less it affects you, the less you feel it. And we all kind of feel that in a way with hearing the same joke over and over again. It stops being funny at a certain point, or a bigger one. Like we deal with pain better because we have something to compare it to. Like the older we are, the better we deal with pain, because the returns have diminished from that pain. Like, oh, I've felt this before, it's not that bad. And you really can't enjoy life without the possibility of dying. And while she hasn't lived lifetimes, she has never let herself feel love. And she said that, like, she's even, I mean, her first family, I think her first family died in Pompeii, if I remember correctly. One of her families died in Pompeii. I think it was her first family.
Like it was her original family, yeah.
Yeah, her original family. And she's like, oh yeah, she doesn't say I'm over it now, but that's essentially what she's meaning. And if you talk to anyone who has lost a parent or a brother or something, it's not something you ever really get over. And like that's kind of heartbreaking that like she's lived so long that she's kind of over her parents' death. And you learn to live with it. And little brother, yeah, it's something you learn to live with, but it's not something you really get over because they were such a huge part of your life. And so I just love that whole dynamic between them, where it's just like he has been surrounded by death so much and loneliness that he understands how much human relationships are important to happiness and everything. And she has experienced a bunch of life. She vicariously has also experienced a lot of death, living millennia. A lot of people who die. But she herself hasn't really experienced anything close to death and has had to keep pushing people away. And it's just the dynamic between them is so fascinating to me. It's just, they're both good people. They're both normal people. Neither of them are really scarred in a negative way from this. But like they're bonding through it is just beautiful. And again, you all know me with romance. I don't really like it, but I kind of like it in this. It works in this, in my opinion.
Sometimes he do be liking it.
Sometimes I do be I like it when it's realistic.
Yeah,
and it's very realistic in this. Even monsters aside,
and when it's meaningful too, not when it's just like, I've loved you ever since the second grade, you bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is very meaningful. There, he even at the end, like he doesn't know what's going to happen. Like she could snap and kill him at the end, and regardless, he still stays with her.
Yeah.
And so like he's willing to die for her, even if she's not. And that kind of, while he's listing all these great things of being mortal and how it makes you appreciate every sunrise and sunset because you're not going to get them forever, and other things it was a beautiful monologue, but I can't remember everything he says right now.
He talked a lot.
He did. And
meanwhile, you hear all this like bone crackling underneath him. It's just like a shot of him, and you hear like what sounds like the transformation for her while he's talking, and you're like, oh man, she's gonna. You don't know which way it's gonna go. She's like, oh man, she's gonna fucking snap and break his neck or just some.
But the important thing is
moment.
that it doesn't matter for him. He's not reacting to it at all. Like he's
as
accepted.
A viewer, you're sitting there. You're like, oh man, she's gonna fucking snap and like, is it this moment like we've been waiting for of her to turn into this monster and just end it? And it goes the route of you hear all this, but then he looks down after hearing the volcano go off behind him. The same volcano that absolutely fucked on her family.
Mount Vesuvius.
Mount Vesuvius. And he turns back to her, and she's still in her normal state while this... so it's just a shot of them looking at each other while the volcano is going off in the background, meaning that she stayed in her normal state, that she fell in love with him during, I guess... either during that monologue or she fell in love with him at any point during the movie, and
was
she
just willing to admit it. Then
she just didn't want to admit it, and she was pushing it back for so long. But in that moment, that's when I guess it just happened.
Yeah.
Which was honestly a much better way to go about it, because it wouldn't have felt worth it to go through that whole movie and she just fucking murders him, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been cheap. It would have been something you'd expect from a. I mean, this is a low budget horror, but it's like
any other
really
type of movie.
The really low budget horror that sacrifice story for the sake of gore. And this is honestly, I admit, a weird start for a spooktacular because it's not very scary, but it is horror adjacent. But it's a beautiful movie, in my opinion. I fucking love it.
Yeah, no, it was much better than I expected. I'm more glad that we like, especially when I watch these movies, and like at first I'm like, okay, that was a good movie, but like when we talk about it, even though I talked for like the first 20 minutes, when I talk about it, that's when I like it more.
Yeah.
Than I thought I would. And I'm like, oh wow, that actually was really good. I'm glad.
There's been times where like we go into these discussions, I'm like, yeah, it was okay, and then we talk about it, I was like, you know what? No, that is a good movie. And there's been some times where I change my Letterboxd rating after we talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I was pleasantly surprised. The first 10 minutes, I was kind of like, but it definitely grows on you once he gets to Italy and meets up with this chick. So yeah, I mean, that was a good watch. Solid.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like the beginning, with how everything's just going downhill for him, you just are beginning with this sense of dread, like something horrible is going to happen to him. Yeah. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, where something great happens to him. Like, yes, visually it's horrific, but it's a beautiful thing. And it's all about like spirituality versus the science of life and everything. And my only nitpick with this is that it does have mediocre dialogue at sometimes. But, it's, again, low-budget film. That's expected every now and then with low-budget films.
Every now and then.
Yes.
I do have a question. And it's been on the old man. Is his wife her by chance? Or is it just some lady, and he's just like a side character for Evan to realize like how true love is and how much he thinks he loves her?
That's how I got it. How I translated it, in my mind. But I mean, they don't really give you enough information. It's possible,
because to me, in my head, for a while there, it was like, she just randomly like died probably, after 20 years. But I mean, if they would have been in love, then, she wouldn't have just left him like that. So I guess that's kind of like scrapping that idea. But I don't know. He had like this picture of her and everything. I was like, oh man, is that like her? What if like she just left him after, I don't know. I think I thought too much about it.
Yeah, I feel like had the directors intended that, we would have seen a close-up with her eyes.
Yeah, true.
Who knows?
But yeah, I guess he was kind of like a placeholder for Evan to just trying to realize what love is and try not to let that go.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's really it, though.
Yeah.
Other than that.
So that does it for a review for Spring. This brings us to the judgment. As always, needs to be unanimous decision with it goes on the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. It's my pick, so I get to go first. Before rewatching it, I would have said, yes, this absolutely goes on the shelf. And upon rewatching it, yes, this absolutely goes on the shelf. It is, again, admittedly, way less of a horror movie than I remember it being. So I apologize for people watching it being like expecting a huge horror and a little letdown.
Bullshit, Mike.
I hope they adapted their expectations as it went forward. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I think it's one of the more unique films I've seen in a long time. So yeah, absolutely goes on the shelf for me.
Yeah. I actually have another question. Does immigration actually come after you after like 7 days? I've never been overseas, so I don't know.
It really depends. I don't think so. I think it was either just a MacGuffin or maybe because he was wanted in the U.S., maybe there was a extradition request for him.
And did the old man call immigration on him? That's how I felt about that one scene.
No,
too.
I
was like, damn, that dude's cold-hearted as shit.
That's where I think the writing's a little lackluster, where it kind of just adds things for the sake of moving the thing along, which is fine.
Well, I also thought when the cops were there, I thought they were just coming after her, and then he was like, oh, it's immigration. And I was like, which one is it?
Yeah.
I'm so confused. Anyway, sorry. But yes, I also say that it belongs on the shelf. Honestly, I might not ever watch this again, but I honestly think it deserves a spot, especially after talking about it on the shelf.
I have it on Blu-ray, so if you ever do want to watch it again.
I guess we're going to watch it again. Hell yeah. Let's go. But there it is.
So, Spring makes it onto the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. That brings us to our assignment for next week. Hopefully, maybe not. It is a little bit more of a horror film than Spring is. Again, I still think it qualifies because the elements are there. But
the elements are there.
I admit, tonally, it was different than I remembered it being. So, Glenn, it is your pick. What is our second horror movie of the 2022 Spooktacular Spooktober?
I can't wait for you to hate me. I'm so excited.
I already hate you.
So, as you know, I just recently watched The Return of the Living Dead. And I noticed that you hadn't watched it. And I'm super curious if we're going to tear this movie apart or just laugh at it or all of the above. But for a little backstory on why I'm actually picking this was my first ever, at least memorable zombie movie that I've ever watched. And the zombie in it, the first one you see come into the movie, it's like he walks in and his skin's melting and shit, and he just goes brains. That stuck with me for so long that I thought that this was the original zombie movie to start all zombie. I was like fucking 8, maybe younger when I watched this. But rewatching it, I thought it was just like a scary movie, just like a horror, just generally no comedy or anything like that. I thought it was just people surviving a zombie horde. Turns out it's a low budget comedy horror movie, and I need your opinion on how funny this movie actually is.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it actually.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on.
You see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Sure.
They ship those bodies. Well, say
risen from the grave.
Mister, there's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100.
And now the question is, how do we get them back into the ground?
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem. 4 left, 10 right.
It's all over everything! Stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job! Brain!
Surprisingly, with that kind of title, I was expecting George A. Romero to be involved.
Well, he, I think the way there was Romero, and there was another writer who I think did this one, the Rudy Ritchie guy. I think that George Romero, he got the Dead movies, and Rudy got the Living Dead movies. So that's how they split it up and split their franchises apart from each other. Now, I could be wrong, and I have to reread. We'll talk about it more next week, but I'd have to reread the trivia on that. But yeah, this movie, I genuinely just want to hear Mike's reaction to it.
I'm looking for it. I like me a good B horror movie, so I'm not as upset as when you said you get ready to hate me. So.
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much detail. We'll talk about it next week, but it's going to be available on Tubi, Pluto, and Amazon Prime for all those silly little eyeballs of yours. It's only an hour and a half long, so it's not too bad. Yeah, there it is.
You got to read all the stuff, man.
I don't want to.
Do it.
The Return of the Living Dead. When 2 bumbling employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air, the vapors cause the dead to rise as zombies. Ooh. I forgot the word again. But anyway, directed by Dan O'Bannon, written by Rudy Ritchie, John A. Russo, Russell Strainer, stars Clu Gulager? Gallagher, maybe. James Karen, Don Calfa, Tom Matthews, Beverly Randolph, John Philbin, Jewel Shepard, and Miguel A. Nunez Jr.
Wow, there isn't a single person involved in this that I've heard of.
Nope. And then Linnea, who's the absolutely shining star, Linnea Quigley, really shows her all in this movie, and she should Trash is her name.
Her character's name.
But yeah,
her character's name Trash.
Of the Living Dead.
Cool. Yeah, so that is our assignment for next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, you can check out our website at www.keystonefilmreview.com. On Instagram, we're Keystone_film_review. Twitter, Keystone_film. TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I'm Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we live to die. Oh God! I'm watching a trailer right now, and something gross just came up.
Oh yeah!
I am looking for. That's just a naked yellow guy. What is happening?
Yep. He looks like a test dummy.
Yes, it is going to be a good time. Stay spooky, everybody.
Brains.
Bye.
Bye.